Hi, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series of short talks in the Gospel of Luke. And today we're looking at Luke chapter 20, verses 9 to 19. Jesus cleared the temple, and so not surprisingly, his authority has been questioned by the religious leaders. But he poses them a question, not that they can't answer, but one they won't answer. So now he tells a parable. We might be watching a film or reading a book and we realise there's a satirical edge to it. And we might sometimes say that's a bit close to home because we actually recognise that there's been a fictionalisation of certain well-known characters within the book or within the film. We can identify them. Well, that's very much the case when Jesus tells this parable. In it is a man who lets a vineyard. That would have been quite common in those days. An owner would have had a vineyard. He might have even built it. He would have equipped it with everything. And then he would have had tenants come and take it over. And there would have been an agreement against them, that between them, that they would share the produce. And it's quite good, really, like a tenancy today. A good landlord would look after everything, and you paid your rent and benefited from that. And if anything was wrong, you were looked after. So, at the appointed time, the owner sends a messenger to pick up the produce that he is due. But the tenants won't play ball. A servant comes and they beat him up. He sends another servant, but he's beaten up and it says treated shamefully. Doesn't sound good at all, does it? It says he sent a third and they wounded him and threw him out. Amazingly, the owner gives them another chance. Verse 13. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my son, whom I love. Perhaps they will respect him." Amazingly, as I said, they're given another chance. But what happens? First part of verse 15. After they've talked the matter over, they decide to kill him. And it says in verse 15, so they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. You see, they want to inherit the vineyard. They want the whole thing for themselves. They don't want the benefits the owner has given them. Well, what's the conclusion? Judgment. Jesus is quite direct in what he says. Verse 15, second half. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Judgment on those who had killed the owner's son. The people are shocked. We read in the second part of verse 16, when the people heard this, they said, "May this never be." You see, I don't think they're shocked at the idea of the owner getting justice and having those men killed. That would have been understandable under the law of the day. I think they cottoned on to what Jesus was talking about. They had understood this was very close to home. In Isaiah chapter 5, verse 1 to 7, it describes Israel as a vineyard that the Lord has tended and made beautiful and ready. And then it talks about how it's wrecked by bad tenants. And here's the point, isn't it? Who are the messengers? Well, we know, don't we? They're the prophets. They're God's messengers to the people who were ignored time after time. And here's the incredible thing. Some of these people listening almost certainly were the pilgrims who had come into Jerusalem with Jesus, who had praised him as he came in. And here's the thing. They would have heard him weep over Jerusalem as he talked about how God had sent prophets to them, but they'd ignored them. They were treated shamefully, and some of them were killed. This was pretty close to home, and they knew it. And incidentally, so would the religious leaders because they would have been acquainted with the scripture that's used here. When they express their sort of amazement or their horror at what's happening, Jesus looks at them directly, verse 17, and asked, "Then what is the meaning of that which is written? The stone the builders had rejected has become the capstone." That's from Psalm 118, verse 22. And the picture there is a building site and an important stone, the capstone, or it can be translated cornerstone. It doesn't really matter which one it is. It's integral to the building. It's a key part. It holds everything together. Now, when I was a builder, I knew that there were certain things you do in building, you can't leave them out. But this is like a stone that's the most important part of the building, the bit that holds everything together, being rejected, ignored. And we can see what he's saying. He's saying the religious leaders, you have ignored the most important messenger who's come to you. Jesus, God incarnate. The tragedy of this is that the religious leaders have already made up their minds. We see that Jesus talks about the judgment of those who ignore this. And verse 19, the teachers of the law and chief priests looked for a way to arrest him immediately because they knew he had spoken this parable against them, but they were afraid of the people. There's an interesting sort of side to this. Psalm 118, which Jesus quotes, also has two verses that begin and end the psalm, which show another side. And they read like this, verse 1 and verse 29 of Psalm 118. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Here's the wonderful thing. God is a holy God. And the thing is this, that's bad news in some ways because we're not. We fail. We don't go his way. We rebel against his ways. And yet here's the wonderful thing. If we do the simple thing of turning to him and looking to him, we can be forgiven and experience that love that endures forever. Thank you so much for listening.